Hello diehards, and I'd like to give a shout out to the rest of the tie-dye community and the tie-dye nation. Thank you for joining us today for Project Green Lantern. This is a t-shirt concept that was brought to us by one of our diehards, so thank you for that. I'd also like to remind our audience that if you have any concepts or ideas that you'd like to see brought to life, please feel free to drop it in the comments, and we will do our best to come up with a tie-dye design that we feel best illustrates whatever your idea or concept was. So anyone and everyone is welcome to submit an idea. We hope you do so. Leave it in the comments. So first, you can see us here. We mapped out the shirt. Of course, well, actually, what the first thing we did was we folded the shirt. So when you have your blank canvas opened up, you're just going to bring those two shirt sleeves together, folding it a hot dog style, I believe they used to call it, and then once again hamburger style. So you bring the top up, the bottom up to the top, and then you'll have it ready to begin for your fold. And the way we are doing this concept is because we want that design that we drew out on the shirt that we mapped out to then be transferred to all other angles. So what it does is it makes it a 4-spaced design when you open it up this way, or when you break it down this way, to where you fold it in half hot dog style and then hamburger style. And what that gives you is whatever design you put into that, you will be left with a mirrored mirror effect, and so you'll end up with doubling that image and then doubling that again to get a final symmetrical full image. And so the way we mapped it out, we just did an inner circle, or an inner square rather, and then we did an outer polygonal shape, which was really just to get that finish of a lantern. And Project Green Lantern, of course, we're trying to aim for the Green Lantern ring, and so that is what we were able to aim for today. And also, I wanted to just let it be known that whenever you do have a concept in mind, try to think in terms of more symmetry and think in terms of what you would need to do to the shirt in order to have it be the finished result that you're aiming for. And so for the rest of the shirt, we just went with a basic fan fold. So after we got those two initial mapped out parts finished up, we went ahead and folded the rest of the shirt just with a fan fold style, as you see me doing here. And then we went and tied it off every so often to give us a symmetrical and even patterning. And that is going to be shown in the different colors of dye and the different dye application process that we're going to dive into later on in this episode. And so yeah, keep that in mind. Start thinking in these terms. Start thinking in terms of symmetry, and think in terms of what folds you need to do and what dye colors and what dye application you need to apply in order to get a finished result that you are happy with. And of course, practice makes perfect, but at the end of the day, nothing's ever 100% perfect. Whatever you come up with is perfect. The universe is perfect, and you are the universe. So keep that in mind, and don't let anything discourage you or stop you on your tie-dye endeavors, because tie-dye is definitely a form of therapy, and it is definitely a form of art and a form of enjoyment for so many of us out here in the world. And so I hope that you will join the Die Hard family, and that you will start with us on the attempt to tie-dye the world. And so yes, and notice me here how I'm going over it just to get that pattern in the shirt. This was actually a new string that I was trying out. I wasn't too happy with it. It said that it was a binding string, but I don't think that it actually was. And so we used it, but we actually aren't going to continue to use it. This will be the last time that we use it. I would recommend using either sinew, nylon, or floss, of course, and that will give you a better result, and it's easier to work with, and it's just more effective for what I personally believe is helpful with the tie-dye application process. So yeah, keep that in mind. And I believe that once we did finish tying off this shirt, we actually went back over some of these different spots with rubber bands, and that is to just give that really defined starting and stopping point. And that is something that you can achieve by just using rubber bands, and just make sure that they are as tight as you can go, and that will give you a good starting and stopping point for your designs and for your main pieces of your tie-dye project. So yes, keep that in mind. And right here what I'm doing is I'm actually going back over all the different binding spots that we had put into the canvas, and the reason for that is to again just give a really defined and really bold separation of color, because each one of these different little sections here is going to be a different dye color, and not everyone has to be different, but it's good if you want to get a different pattern going. That's how you achieve that. And just by putting an extra couple rounds of this binding on here, it will help the dye to remain separated from each color. And so just know that that's what you're doing when you're doing these resist tie-dye techniques. And so everywhere that you are going to actually have your binding is where dye will not be. And so you want to go heavy on the binding, that way the dye will not bleed and it will not blend into the next color as much as possible. And so to keep the lines sharp and to keep the colors clearly separated, you just go extra heavy on that binding, or you add an extra layer, or you add rubber bands, or whatever you need to do to get that binding secured on there and tight enough to not let the dye separate onto the next section. And so that is one of the ways to achieve that, so keep that in mind. And so right here I'm just going back over it and making sure that those starting and stop points right here for the main design, the two first nubs are going to be the main design, and so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, keep the design in mind, yes, of course. And right here we're just going to go back over and re-tighten up some of these. I believe that the dye application went pretty quick on this. Have the washable marker there off to the side. You can always go back over and mark those out for yourself. That way you can have a clear indication. That way you don't have to solely rely on your mind's eye. But this is what the finished folding binded project looks like right here. Notice the little nubs are equally separated as much as possible, and that's just to give symmetry. The first ones, that's where the design is located, and these are just the follow-up designs to fill in the rest of that shirt and fill in the rest of that canvas. That way you get a fully saturated, nicely absorbed t-shirt finish. And so notice here how we went with different color patterns. I believe we used red, blue, and yellow for this t-shirt. And of course when you mix those colors you always get some orange and some greens, and that is the process of that. The initial colors we used blue, green, and yellow to try to achieve that Green Lantern finish. And so this is it at the end of the dye application, and this is the finished result right here. Notice the different color patterns, and notice the different those lines. Notice how that line is bold right there in the center shirt, and notice how there's clear separation from one color to the next. And that is what can be achieved when you use this method and when you do it this way. So yes, thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying till the end. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time. Leave any questions or comments down in the comments, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for your time as always. Tie-dye the world, and we'll see you next time. All right, love you. Bye.